Hey, friend. Welcome to eDiscover-Tea, from critique to change, sharing stories and expanding possibilities for the future of work in e-discovery, a podcast that brews up positivity and progress. I'm Becky, and along with my co-conspirators, Renee and Jill, we're here to pour out practical advice and inspiring conversations that illuminate what's really happening out in e-discovery land. In each episode, we'll uncover the truths and realities of eDiscovery, shining a light on what's working, what needs improvement, and how we can drive meaningful change from the grassroots level. Our goal is to inform, uplift, and empower you with insights and strategies. Together, we can create a movement towards a more innovative, compassionate, and effective legal landscape. So grab your favorite cup, sit back, and let's infuse your day with positive energy and actionable wisdom. This is eDiscover-Tea.
Welcome back. Hello, ladies. How are you today?
Doing great.
Good.
So good to see you both. So, just for everybody to kind of understand where we are recording this episode after we have released episode one, but before we've released episode two. We have recorded episode two, and actually, episode two is going to be two episodes. So, this is we're recording this at a time where we have the cat. We're recording this at a time where we have put our baby eDiscover-Tea out into the world and have gotten some reactions back. And we're also recording this at a time where we had a pretty heavy kind of conversation around suffering in the industry. And I thought what would be great to follow up those conversations is sort of taking a pause and just reflecting on the kind of feedback we're getting, how we're feeling about sharing our voices in this way, and in particular, how we felt about talking about suffering in the industry. What were those conversations like for us? Because I think what we are hearing, and I think we'll go into this a little bit more, but what we're hearing from people, the feedback we're getting is like, they're kind of surprised that we're talking about this. Like, it feels risky to some people. I think we all know that having this kind of real conversation is not common in the industry. There is a culture of silence around it. So I think part of this, what I want to show is like, how do you deal with having these tough conversations? What does it feel like to experience it? What kind of things are you thinking about in your head? Just to show people that you can have these conversations. And in fact, I think going forward, in order to change the culture of e-discovery, these conversations do need to be had in the organizations in which this stuff is happening. So that being said, that's sort of my introduction. I want to, I think, start first with reflecting on episode 2 and 3, which is a combination. It was a longer episode that we've cut into two parts, and it was really around suffering. So the first thing I want to mention about this, though, is that we actually went into that conversation with an intention. We hired somebody, Rebecca Dunaway, to help us prepare to have that conversation in a way that felt authentic and heart-centered and true for us, and in a way that didn't sort of trigger all of our wounding, but allowed us to speak the truth, and hopefully in a way that will be well received by the people who hear it. So let's talk about that for a second. I'm curious, Renee and Becky, how did you feel about doing what we did was heart math? How did you feel about doing heart math before that conversation? And do you feel like it made a difference in how you showed up in that conversation?
Who goes first?
You can go first.
Okay. I loved it. I wish I knew of and were using those tools when I was in eDiscovery, because not only did I feel like it centered me to a point where I could just focus on what I wanted to say and the message that we want to get out and how we want to help people. But it just aligned us in this way where we knew each other's intention, and it was just such a lovely way to be real in the moment, but not um, full on emotional. Like we weren't led by our feelings, we were just sort of led by the calling. And that felt so wonderful. Very controlled, yet freeing in a way, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
It feels so good.
Regulated.
Yes, yes, completely. Um, yeah, really excellent tool, and something I think as we continue, we might recommend maybe just for teams who are going into something like a client meeting even. It's good to be centered and have that moment of reflection before you just start speaking. Because what a lot of people in this business don't realize is that some of the work that, at least in the project management, has to happen comes like that. A client will call or a client will ask for something, and you have to shift from what you were doing to get into something completely different right away. Or at least that's the expectation. And there's no real thought process around how do I switch my mind now to this other thing. That's kind of, I mean, it's traumatic actually, right? The constant back and forth. To have this tool to allow you to just sort of focus on your breathing, focus on your heart, it's coming from your heart, like relax, and get regulated, couldn't have been a better experience for us. And I think it really helped us get our message out and had a really positive impact on the end result. Becky, what you think?
I mean, well, I think we all know I'm the very woo-woo one of the three of us. I've never hidden that side of myself. I've often suggested, I'm sure there's former colleagues watching who are like, yeah, I remember when Becky kept telling me to meditate. Um, it helps. It helps.
Mm-hmm.
Like, um, I always think of this phrase, being delulu is the solulu. So it's basically being delusional is the solution. Like, how can you get, and I take that, if I want to like drain it down to just like the bottom roots of it, it's basically like, how can you shift your mind into a state of positivity and even magical delusion
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that the outcome is exactly what you want. Of course, like I've done meditation, but heart math was something new for me, and I wasn't sure what to expect. And I was actually blown away at how efficient it is because it's something you can do in like 2 minutes to really regulate your system. And I think for the audience, like it's not just some esoteric thing. This heart math is like it's a form of meditation or hypnosis almost, I think. Whereas there's thousands of research papers done on it. This is something that like people are. This was actually developed to try to help. What was it? Navy SEALs,
Mm-hmm.
military people who are going into like very tense situations. And they train first responders with it. It is not something that's like totally out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that respect, like I look forward to us maybe introducing it to this community because I think it could be really helpful. For me, it helped me drop into a place where I was not going to be consumed by my fire. I have a lot of fire, um, we are descendants of coal miners. So I keep talking about that, but like if you understand that, you understand that like we come from a place where it's like all about workers' rights and fighting for people who can't stick up for themselves. We were brought up in a family that is very much focused on advocacy for others. But sometimes I can allow my advocacy for others overshadow like the message I'm trying to make. or the message I'm trying to deliver. So I think it really helped me stay centered. And did I say some wild things? Probably to some people, but I think I was on my best behavior, honestly.
I think you were too.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Playing
Well,
just like
I know. I mean, I think if you watch the video, like I also had the fire. My internal fire was like my face. I was so hot. The room was hot. Like it had been hot that day. We recorded in the evening. I was like literally in flames, right? Like that. So talking about it really stokes the inner fire, and that's not a bad thing, right? Like that, one of the things that I have learned over the course of my life, and it has been hard, but I have had a beautiful person to witness, which is Becky, my sister, is that fire isn't all bad. Like sometimes fire is what is needed to clear the underbrush so that the forest can continue to grow, or so that something new can be generated. Like sometimes fire can be sacred. It doesn't have to be an all out uncontrolled situation. And I think you did a great job of that. The other thing about heart math, I think that helped us is not just in having the conversation, but I actually used it during the conversation when I was feeling a little bit like nervous, or I was feeling a little uncomfortable about some of the
When you're
things.
like, oh, Becky, Jesus, what'd you just say? Just
No, I don't
breathe
know.
through
It's
it.
probably, yeah, probably something you said made me like nervous or a little bit uncomfortable, to be able in that moment to remain present, to like calm myself so that it didn't spiral or go someplace I didn't want to go, and I could remain in the conversation in the way that I wanted to. So I thought it was super powerful. So I'm curious how you guys experience the days after. Did you have like what I call a vulnerability hangover? Did you feel like you needed to hide out a little bit, like go under your covers? Did it feel liberating? How did it feel to have that conversation and to share the things that we shared?
I felt free and unburdened. I mean, I can't, there's something about, what did you call it, Jill? The silent,
Silent suffering?
no, like just the silence in this industry that just like
Mm.
nobody wants to talk
The
about
culture of silence.
the silence. I don't understand how free I felt after having that conversation. Um, there I have been in situations where companies have tried to have tough conversations through organizational psychologists and such, but the it always felt kind of I don't want to use the word fake, inauthentic, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was clearly there was an agenda. It was, the person was hired to deal with a specific thing. Um, but the actual issues that are plaguing this industry that can be so cool, no one wants to talk about it because it's so hard. And if you talk about it, I know Becky says this all the time. You're labeled a complainer, and then no one listens to you. And then that can feel really lonely. And what I felt after was, I mean, completely unburdened. And I felt good because, I've been for the last 5 years really trying to help people in this industry. While inside, right? Trying to lead with compassion, trying to build teams that work efficiently but don't work people to death. And I may have done some good things. I may not have gotten it all right, but tell you what, I felt like I did more for the community after we finished that episode than I have in the last 3 years, just by
Wow.
being open and honest about what is hurting people in this industry. Like people really need to hear it, understand it, stop hiding from it, stop pretending like you don't see the body in the road. It is there. It's rotten. Let's just try to help each other fix it. Yeah,
Mhm.
I totally felt good.
That's amazing. What about you, Becky?
Um, I felt like I had emptied everything out. Like,
Mm.
here's it all. It's all on the table. This is who I am. This is what I think. This is what I believe. Um, and also like with the side of I just khaleesi'd my career in legal, like completely. Like dragon flames, just scorch earth. But then I come back to the fact, which I always say to you guys, is if I'm very honest, anybody who listens to this and thinks, I don't want to hire those women because they're talking about things that we need to not talk about, because why should we acknowledge the elephant in the room? Like, just get back to work so we can make more money off of you. I don't want to work for those people, and neither do you guys. Like,
Mm-mm.
we have specific things that we are trying to do here on earth with our time. And the three of us are aligned in wanting to help people, wanting people to believe more in themselves, to take back control of their own lives, to believe that something else is possible. And so if I have to be that person out there speaking the truth that nobody else feels comfortable enough to speak, then I'll keep doing that. And um, I had a long career in the legal field. I'm fine with it being over if it is.
Mm.
I mean, I think that like everything happens for a reason, and I chose my path and I'll deal with whatever the consequences are, because if we can just help one person see the light or try to do something different or try to believe more in themselves, that's all that I'm trying to do. That's all I really care about. How about you,
I'm
Jill?
glad I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's something that we should share with people, that that's actually a conversation that we have had.
Mhm.
Like going into this, were we prepared, each of us individually, to see that our careers in eDiscovery are over as a result of what we're doing here in this podcast? And I think that is a reflection of the energy of the industry, which is there is a fear around speaking up. You are you learn. I don't know that it's even explicit. There's just we all
Right.
learned it, right? You don't say these things out loud. Like you might complain to your coworker, like maybe your work bestie. Maybe if you have a good boss, you'll say something to your boss, but nobody is bringing this stuff. Nobody is standing up in an all hands asking the CEO what they're doing about the rampant burnout in their organization. Nobody's doing that. And there's a reason, right? Because we all know you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. And so I think we have had that conversation about whether we're prepared to allow this to end our careers if that's what has to happen. And I think we will continue to have that conversation because that's something that can change over time. Like we might feel differently. And so we're very aware of that. So I'm glad that you raised that, Becky. In terms of how I felt, I think my experience is a little different than yours because I it has taken me a long time to get to the place where I'm willing to speak out in this way. I have never had trouble. This is what's weird is like I've never had difficulty like being the person who says the controversial thing. Sometimes it just comes out of my mouth. But there's something about the legal industry where I learned very early on in my career to keep my mouth shut and to not say, I mean, I think people who worked with me would be like, "Well, I can remember some instances where you like put their coals to the fire." And I probably did. But like to talk about it in this way feels very vulnerable to me, and it is harder for me to do. This is a stretch for me to do this. I mean, one of my friends called me and said, "I'm so proud of you. See how far you have come. I knew that this wasn't even possible for you 2 years ago, and look what you're doing now." So it took a lot of like healing and growth for me to get to this place. And so immediately after, I felt all kinds of uncomfortable. I couldn't remember what we talked about. I couldn't remember what was said. I felt like, oh no, like, was it too much? Was it too big? Do I need, like, what's it going to sound like? And there was this period of time between when we finished the recording and when we actually got to hear the recording and start doing the editing process that I was like, I don't know, I feel a little bit nervous. And it wasn't that I could remember or pick up on anything. I think it was the fact that I couldn't really remember the things that were said that caused me a little bit of discomfort. And so that next day, I really pulled inward. I didn't really want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to talk about this. I really wanted to be by myself. I was definitely like the crab, right? I'm like pulling all my legs in, like, or the turtle or whatever, like I need my shell. But then once I listened, had an opportunity to listen, I felt really good about how we shared what we wanted to share and how each of us had our own perspective. And it sort of soothed me a little bit. So I think that's important for people to know that, like, yeah, it might really feel uncomfortable. And you might be like, I just said this thing and I was speaking my truth, but now I feel like I need to hide under the covers for like 10 days. Yeah, that's real. It might be like that, and I think we got that feedback too, right? From other people. Like, I can't believe you guys are talking about this stuff. And that was just the first episode. They even haven't even heard
So
the second episode.
everybody who said that to me, I was like, oh, just wait.
I know.
You've seen nothing yet.
Right.
Just wait.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, people reaching out, that people are a friend of a friend, who works in the industry. Where do these women work? Aren't they worried about their jobs? Don't they think they'll get in trouble? Thank you for your I think concern. Unless you were gonna try to drop a dime on us, but yeah, we are very aware. Like, we aren't new. We're not Gen Z, brand new to this industry. We are Gen X, seasoned career women. We knew the risks and we decided to do it anyways because we knew it could help somebody. And if, at the least, make people feel seen and validated. And I think that's the feedback we've been getting. I mean, wasn't expecting this much feedback.
Yeah.
Like positive feedback, but it's been great.
Well, let's talk about that. I want to share a little bit about that too.
Yeah.
Renee, I mean, if you can think of like one piece of feedback that you've received that was like, wow, this feels super aligned. We need to keep going. This is important. Like, we're really like, this matters. What would you say that feedback was, if you can nail it down to like one thing?
The most dynamic piece of feedback that I got, we can't do, but it was essentially, thank you so much. Start naming names.
Oh.
I mean, we need people to know who's out there, which firms are, hurting people the most, which people and which vendors. I was like, okay, we're not gonna do that, but we will tell stories that will illuminate the issue. And look, if people see themselves or can detect who it might be, who we might be talking about, that's unfortunate. But honestly, there are a lot of bad actors in this industry. And you might think it's one person and it could be somebody completely different. And so, that's the biggest feedback. I mean, because what is consistent is a lot of people who feel like project managers in this industry are nothing, that they're replaceable, completely replaceable. Like, I can just If you don't want to work here anymore, great. Go away. I'll find somebody else to take over for you. Not only is that a myth, but it hurts business.
Yeah.
It hurts the people who are left behind. It hurts every single time you have to replace someone, whether they decide to leave or you decide to push them out.
Hmm.
Every single time it disrupts business. So it's better for the business for people to be, in an environment that isn't toxic. So I think, yeah, before I go on a tangent, the biggest
Hmm.
feedback, yeah, burn it to the ground, start naming names, which again,
Mm.
we're not
Hmm.
going to do. But I did
No.
find it interesting that I heard that from three people, and
Wow.
all of them are still in the industry in pretty high up, parts of the organization.
Wow.
Not C-suite, but on their way. And I think that that's super telling because even at that level, those people don't feel like they can say something without the threat of termination or without, being made to feel really uncomfortable at work to help the people that are in their charge. And speaking from my own experience, Joe, like you, I opened up my mouth a few times at a couple different places. Well, actually, at all of them, and and very much expressed, look, we're losing our manners here, or are you not paying attention to this person who is working too much? We have to give them a day off, or something like that. Eventually, I just started doing stuff without asking
Hmm.
for permission because when you
Yeah.
know the right thing to do, you just do it, right?
Hmm.
And hope that people will see the benefit of that action. Look, I did this. They're happier. Yay. Everybody's happy. Client's happy. This person's happy. But what ends up happening are the egos that say, well, you didn't do what I told you to do. And so even though it's working, nope, can't have you. And that's why people stay quiet. And that's why some of these folks want, people to be named.
Hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. I
We'll
mean,
take
what can you even say about that? Like, yes, all of that. Yes, to all of that. Becky, what's the one biggest piece of feedback that you've heard? I mean, and you just shared one, but is there something else that really stuck out to you that we've heard from somebody or you've heard personally from somebody?
Um, I wouldn't say one person, but I would say the range of different kinds of people. We're getting public feedback, but most of it has been private. People will like the posts about it, or they'll see it and keep going because they don't want it showing up in their network, like, this is their secret thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say privately, the range of different people. So everything from former executives that we've, worked with or for who were really like so proud and also like thought we did a really good job. We did, we approached these topics like thoughtfully and that we're talking about important issues that, they need to be addressed. All the way down the line to people who are just getting started in the industry and feeling like they're starting to really find out what it really is like, and listening to us, like hoping that they will learn some things, gain some wisdom, and whatever that means for them. So I think just the range of people that I think have watched and sent us like feedback, overwhelmingly positive. Um, those are the things that are sticking out to me right now. How about
Mm-hmm.
you?
I think the thing that has stuck out to me is that when people have shared that this goes beyond eDiscovery, that
Mhm.
what we're talking about, like we're focused on eDiscovery, but these things go well beyond eDiscovery, go beyond the legal industry. This is a corporate America thing. It might go even beyond that. I think other countries have different expectations than we do in this country, but nonetheless, that these topics are actually more universal than how we're even talking about it. And I think for me, that I agree. I think we said that at some point. I probably said that. Um, but what it also, I think, tells me is that that is a way we should approach it too, right? Like we are focused on e-discovery and what's happening there and our lived experience there, and that's the people that we're really talking to. But that we zoom out far enough in these conversations that allows more people to come into the fold because maybe in their industry or wherever they are experiencing similar things and also experiencing a culture of silence around it without the ability to really feel comfortable to speak up or having been had their hand slapped for speaking up or doing what is considered to be the right thing to do as a human being. So that I thought was really important feedback for us and interesting feedback for us. And I think it will be woven into discussions going forward. At least I'll be trying to focus on that a little bit, where we are pulling back far enough that allows more people to come in and see themselves in what we're talking about.
I mean, think about the Me Too movement, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
a few years ago, I know I shared with the both of you because I trusted you. Um, I had a Jerry Maguire moment. Remember that? I know with this memo, like I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Where's my fish? I'm going, and here's how I think, and this burnout thing needs to fix itself." And everybody that I showed it to was like, "This is great, but damn, make sure it doesn't go public because you will not work in this industry ever again."
Mm-hmm.
And I just recently reread it, and I think I wrote that thing 3 years ago, and every point is just as just as true today as it was when I wrote it. Every point. That saddens me.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, as far as we have gone, we haven't really gone far enough to help people. Um, but what it did was just ignite something in me to no longer be afraid of the consequences of trying to step out in front of people to help. When I think about the Me Too movement and how long, I mean, decades and decades of silence around women and men being abused in an industry that we all look at for entertainment, not realizing all the ugliness that sat behind all of that and what's come from strong and very um, brave people speaking out. Sure, there was some little backlash here and there. People were not able to work, but a lot of that is correcting itself. There's a lot more women producing, a lot more content with older women, a lot more content with that, you might not have seen because of the folks who were controlling the industry and letting that nastiness keep people silent, which kept, beauty from coming into the world. I can't, I no longer wished to sit back and allow that silence to keep our industry from helping people in project management that I knew were suffering, not from word of mouth, saw it every day, experienced it myself, and staying quiet wasn't helping anybody. The only person, well, I shouldn't say that. It wasn't helping the people on the ground. The only person it was helping were the people making the money at the top. And that doesn't, how does that, like, that can't feel good, right? And what really bugs me about this community of silence and the fact that, we're all warned about if, we speak up, we're not going to work in the industry again is like, why not? What is it
Mm-hmm.
exactly about what we're saying that's so hideous that we can't work again? Is it that we speak up? Is it that we encourage people to acknowledge the power that they have in their position? The fact that if every project manager on a Tuesday decided that they were not going to work, if they
Mm-hmm.
all just like, what? No, like blue flu, right? I mean, if they all just did that, that's power.
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize you guys have the power.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that we want to encourage and remind folks. You guys are the ones that did the studying. You are the ones that learned the client. You are the ones that get up and sometimes leave your dinner with your families to help someone, run a search, right? Something that seems, when you say it out loud, sounds so inconsequential to life. You know what I mean? Like, you got to give me a
Mm-hmm.
break right now with the search you need to run when I'm trying to eat my dinner, and not hear or understand that, like, that is more important to me. And having the power to say that out loud, nobody feels that power. So what do? They go inward, they do the thing, they feel awful about it, their family is affected, and the people in your organization that give you the paycheck say either, how dare you not get on the phone with that person who needed that search right then, right? That happens more often than not. Or say, next time, can you just not tell them what you're doing because they're not going to like it? Why?
Mm-hmm.
And why aren't we talking about why? Why not? Don't you
Mm-hmm.
like to eat dinner with your family? Don't you like to go on vacation here and there? Like, I just don't understand why.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like th it's unclear to me whether the risk is real or not. You
Mm,
know, we make it real when we buy into it and we allow it to change the way that we operate. But is it actually real? I'm unsure. I don't know. And I would encourage people, I think, and we'll have these conversations like we will be very solution oriented, right? We're going to follow up this conversation probably with a discussion around some ideas for solutions. I mean, there's so many ideas out there that we could talk about, and they're just ideas. Nobody knows exactly. Like, if this was something that could be easily solved, it would have done been solved, right? It's not so easy. So I think, we will have the conversations around ideas, but I do think part of what people have to consider is whether they are making the risk up or not. And that's hard for people. Maybe it's hard for people to hear. And maybe I am fully aware that it depends on who you are as far as how much of a risk is actually real or not. For some of us, it is a very real risk because of, usually it's racism at play. It becomes a very significant risk for people of color to speak up and to speak out about harm being done. It's less risky for white people to do that. I mean, that's just being real. It's less risky for men to do it than it is for women to do it. Again, just being real here. However, there is power among the group. There is power in how you can choose to operate in a collective sort of way that says nobody on this team is going to skip dinner in order to respond to a client. And we're going to be very clear about that's what we're doing, right? We're going to let our clients know, oh, we're in dinner hour here. And I think like that, like there is this like veil that exists that's like, don't show anybody that you're suffering. Don't show anybody that like what's
You're
really happening.
human.
Right. Don't show anybody that you're human. I do think this, I don't want to go down this tangent, but I'm going to plant it as a seed. Does this industry want project managers to be a call center, or
mm,
does it want them to be consultants? Because I think, I don't, I'm going to say this, but I don't want to really talk about it in this episode, but I am planting the seed. I think that they want project managers to operate like a call center, but want them to be like, they expect them to operate like a call center, but want them to be consultants. You can't, they're not the same.
mm,
Those two things are not, it does not compute. So these are the things that have to get sorted out, right? These are the things that we can talk about. Like, let's talk about, like, should it be more like a call center? Would that be more beneficial to people? Would that really work, right? Like, can you staff it in a way that looks like a call center where people are on shifts? Or do you want consultants who have a high level of expertise but are not available to you all the time? Like, let's talk about it. Like, what is preferred, so I think there's lots of conversations that can happen and will happen, and we'll get to sort of flesh some of these questions out and see where can like at least start the conversation for people to be thinking about, because if you want to change, you have to know what direction you're going. You do have to be able to envision something different other than what you have. And I think that that is a place where eDiscovery needs a little help, is seeing a different possibility. And that's what we're doing here. So any final thoughts? Because I think actually, I want to do one more thing before we wrap. I want to do a dear friend.
Ooh.
I want to do the dear friend that we just got, because it's just short and it's fun, and I think it's perfect for this conversation. But before we do that, any final thoughts? Becky, do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with us?
No. I'll need to. No, like, but we're gonna talk about sales, right? At some point, we're gonna talk about the I don't even have a good word for them, but we're going to talk about the unrealistic expectations and the lack of understanding of actually like what project managers do.
We have to.
Yeah, for sure.
We can't. They are a huge part of the organization. We have to talk about that. Have to, and we'll be nice. Don't worry, people. Like, we'll be a little. We'll light the fire a little bit. We'll light the torch a little bit.
I'm just kidding.
We got Becky.
There's a few nice ones. I would even invite one of the nice ones on. There's a lot more terrible ones. So,
well, yeah. I mean, they're probably not going to be listening to this, so I'm sure that that's fine.
Oh yeah, they don't give a fuck. We're just cogs in the machine.
I mean, that is not an untrue statement of a perception about some people in this industry. So it's fine. Listen, we are not here despite what some people want, we're not here to burn it all to the ground. We could do that. If you want a group to do that, it is the three of us. We absolutely could burn this shit to the ground if we wanted to, but that's not what we want, because to be honest with you, as much sometimes as you look at the world and you think this all just needs to come crashing down, that in and of itself would create an immense amount of suffering. And that's true in eDiscovery too. It can't just burn to the ground. We will use sacred fire to burn the things away that need to be burned away, so that new growth is possible and change is possible, and we'll create a fertile soil that they can hopefully use to build something new, right? Something different, something that's healthy and is supportive of well-being instead of something that detracts from well-being. So that's my spiel. Let's do dear friend. Becky, do you want to do it, or you want me to do it?
No, you do it, because I think I glanced at it. I didn't read it, so.
Okay. Hang on a second. I'm going to pull it up.
I'm going to fix my face this time so I'm not. The last one caught me off guard.
But that's the idea of dear friend.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I like an authentic reaction.
Okay, so for those of you who are just tuning in, or maybe you skipped, listen, I know some of you, if you're hearing this now and you're like, what is dear friend? You did not listen to the full episode of like one of the last ones, because we did this and we've been doing this. So Dear Friend is a segment in this podcast where we take your stories, your comments, your feedback, and we share them publicly on your behalf without naming your name, unless you want us to tell people who it is. Nobody so far has said, yes, please tell my name. Everybody
not
wants
one.
to remain anonymous. Yeah,
Right.
it's fine. I'm not. I get it. It's fine.
We do it for you.
We do it for you. That's our job, right? That's what we're here to do. So you can say it's me saying this. But Dear Friend, so we will post the link in the show notes or whatever, but we want you to go there and tell us your story. Tell us if you're having trouble with something and you want us to like opine on it or whatever, riff on it. That's what we do best.
Give you some advice.
Give you some advice, right? Whatever it is. So we have one for today that I want to share, and I think it's perfect to end this episode with, which is, so this person says, absolutely blown away by the first episode. Please don't stop fighting the good fight. Take it to the goddamn streets. Amen to that. We out here. We are out here. Okay. They continue. I would rather listen in caps listen to a million more of these than yet another fucking industry webinar about, quote, how AI can help you build your case. How you like that?
Listen, I don't know who you are, friend, but I fucking love you.
Yeah, I know.
Bless you. All up and through. God bless you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I feel like that's perfect for this episode, which is just confirmation that what we're doing matters to people and they want to hear it and they desperately want this conversation to happen. And if we're the ones who are brave enough and courageous enough and free enough to have it, then I'm happy to be here as part of this and to share the stories that people send us and to talk about these things in a real way that hopefully can help them shift their experience in the industry.
Hear, hear.
Yes, I love that.
All right, y'all. Well, that feels complete for me. How about you two?
Yeah.
I'm feeling good all up and through. Yes, I am. Snaps. Love it.
Okay, so until the next one, we'll see you guys soon.
Later, ladies.
Bye.
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 Thank you for joining us on this episode of eDiscover-Tea. We hope today's conversation helped you feel seen, heard, and validated in the challenges you face in the workplace. You are not alone, and together we're building a community where we can share our struggles, lift each other up, and drive meaningful change. If this episode resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you can join us for future episodes where we'll continue these important discussions. Whether we reach one person or thousands, our efforts here will be worth it. If you have stories to share or are in need of support and we can help, fill out the form linked in the show notes. We'd love to hear from you. On behalf of Jill, Renee, and myself, thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.